So we're not specifically Seattle or not specifically Washington as a whole. SWE's mission, or PNW's mission, is the same mission as your collegiate section, to empower women to achieve their full potential in their careers as engineers, and vision a world with gender parity and equality in engineering and technology. These are just some intro slides. You guys should know. SWE's core values and vivid descriptions: integrity, inclusion, inclusive environment, mutual support, professional excellence, and trust. So for the PNW section, it might look a little bit different than the UW structure, but I always knew when I first moved here that the UW collegiate section had so many vice presidents and chairs and everything, so that's really great to see. My college section was maybe 10 people at the most, including vice president and president. So it's probably, this structure is very similar to what you guys have here. So we have president, advisor, president-elect, that is what I am. So next year, it basically acts as a vice president, but it's a 2-year term. So I'm here as president-elect, and then FY 27, I will be president. We have treasurer, treasurer-elect. Treasurer-elect is Morgan here, and then finance committee is under there. And then you can see kind of the rest of the things. I think Tiffany is the one that was a former president, and also various other roles underneath that type of thing in this structure and stuff. So we kind of have the gambit here. Here is the current leadership for FY 26. Dee Dee is our current president, and it falls with everybody else, and there's everybody's lovely faces and gears. We already went over this, but this is us. And so, or did you want to touch more on that? I think we're good. Okay. So we're gonna kind of hopefully make this conversational, hopefully make this a little bit informal, a conversation between 3 of us, and hopefully you guys as well. And it's gonna kind of be in life after college, SWE support or work-life balance, and SWE after college, what that looks like. So to start off with, life after college, I think what I so my story, I'll explain, I guess, a little bit more of, I'm from the Midwest, from the Chicagoland area. I was raised there, and then I went to Milwaukee School of Engineering, just in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which was an hour away from where I grew up. And I studied architectural engineering, which is a very niche engineering, but if you think about it, it's HVAC engineering or plumbing engineering, fire protection engineering, that kind of stuff. And so when I was looking for jobs kind of after college, there was consulting, and then there's contracting, really. And the sides that I was looking at, I wanted to go into design. I was like, okay, I had 5 years of studying and working at a degree, and I wanted to apply all of that, right? And so I was like, okay, I need to go to the design, have a little bit of design and knowledge behind before maybe I go to contracting or something else, or even nonprofit work and stuff. And so when I transitioned to that, I was very much in the state, okay, I'm gonna grind, I'm a young engineer, entry level, I'm gonna put my head down, learn a lot, because it's so different from learning in a classroom to learning on the job. And I think I had internships before, actually, with the same company that I work for right now. And so they really helped with the transition of understanding what the difference is in being an intern and being a full-time engineer. So with that, though, I think at the same time I had a epiphany of okay, now I'm just this little at the bottom of the totem pole, if you know, in a way. And so I think how I don't think I managed much of my stress at that point. I was more, felt like I didn't have as much stress because I was on the lower end of the totem pole and I was learning, and I think my mentors and my manager was really understanding that you're new, you're going to learn on the job, and you're going to learn something different that you weren't learning in the classroom. And so I had a lot more free time actually, and that's when I joined actually PNW section as a professional, and something called the Early Career Professionals Affinity Group, or ECPAG. So I had a lot of free time after because I wasn't doing homework, type of thing. So I think the stress or the focus kind of shift after that. It wasn't all focused on school and what I was doing, and that transitioned a bit. Tiffany, did you want to continue more? Did you have a?
Yeah, I guess I could just talk and project, like you said. I guess, so my life after college, I'm originally from Hawaii, but I came here for my undergrad and I stayed for my master's. Through that time, I didn't switch majors, obviously, but I did switch concentrations in what I focused my studies on. So my undergraduate, I focused on semiconductors and thin films for solar cell applications, and I actually interned at TSMC Washington down in Camas. Then I realized that I really don't care for semiconductors that much, especially at a company like TSMC. I think it's a little more relevant these days with a lot of thin film work, but when I was in school, it was really like you went to Intel or you went to like Micron in Idaho, and I kind of wanted to come back to like the greater Seattle area. And TSMC, my internship there was really eye-opening at what a big company looked like. So I realized that I kind of wanted to be at a smaller company and potentially wanted to transition to aerospace. So that's what I ended up doing my master's in. I did my master's in composites materials and non-destructive testing and evaluation of of composite materials, CFRPs, which kind of let me have an internship in aerospace, realized I did indeed like the smaller company feel, and then was lucky enough to get a job after my master's as a systems engineer, which was really interesting for me. It wasn't a job where I really used my degree, but I kind of had student loans as an out-of-state student that I really wanted to start paying off right away. I had played with the idea of like doing my PhD, but student loans are like kind of a hard one to get around if you just commit to doing school for like 5 to 6 to 7 more years. So that's kind of like was my progression. I did learn a lot like as a systems engineer, but we can kind of talk more about career progressions later potentially, but as a systems engineer, I learned a lot of new things because my background was materials, and systems is a lot bigger than that. It's really not anything super technical, it's really product-based, which I thought was really cool. I learned to do things like scripting and VMV, which I hadn't previously done, but it was really like a way of thinking more than like applying things I learned in school. And I did have a desire to get back to design and like material selections and things like that, and that's kind of how I ended up at Crane as a process engineer a few years after.
My husband is a PhD student here at UW, and he has not gotten a full night's sleep this entire week. So yeah, I totally get it with the not wanting to do a PhD program when you have a bunch of student loans, and also school is just so hard, as you guys know, so it is kind of nice to go into industry and get a little bit of change. So my story is that I got my first internship in my sophomore year of college at VAT at John Deere. So I loved what I was doing. So I did 2 internships with them. The first one was in person at Dubuque, Iowa. And keep in mind, so I went to college in Texas, in Dallas, and so it was really cool for me to get that experience of living in the Midwest. And it was like very, very different for me. I loved it. And I worked on engines and cooling systems for excavators. So on the job site, that's where like it's the machine that has the giant claw. So I absolutely loved that. And then So I had a return offer internship for the year of 2020, summer of 2020, and then the pandemic hits in my junior year of college. So fortunately, John Deere did not rescind that internship. They made it virtual, where I worked on engine remanufacturing.
Wow.
And I absolutely love John Deere. I really had a strong interest in thermofluids when I was in college, so all of the work I was doing in engineering was perfect for me. And then John Deere goes on a hiring freeze for their new college graduate program because they had to lay them off because of the pandemic. So I'm out here in my senior year of college, 2 years of internships with John Deere, great performance reviews, both years, but they're on hiring freeze, so they can't hire me. And I was fortunate enough that, I had been to all of these SWE meetings throughout college. I never thought I would have ended up at AT&T. But all 4 years that I was in college, I was in SWE. And so the AT&T professionals saw me year after year. I became a part of the leadership team. They knew my name. And then when AT&T was looking to hire, they said, "Hey, Morgan, do you want to apply?" And I said, "I need a job, so sure." They had 3 rounds of interviews, and the first round of interviews was essentially, it was just like a freebie. Like, I already knew the recruiter because he came to the meetings, so it was an easy in.
Wow.
So I go from mechanical engineering to the only thing they have for my major at AT&T at the time was this role that they no longer have called technical business manager in their new college development program. So I started out as a software project manager after I'd spent 2 internships working on engines. And you know what? I absolutely hated it. I did not like it, but it was a job. And I did consider leaving the company, but the company, I was a part of the rotational program. And for my second rotation, I actually, they had told me, "Oh, in your rotational program, you'll get a second rotation, you'll pick your favorite roles, and then you'll interview for all of them." I actually bypassed that by building my network. So what I did was I reached out to all different kinds of people in the company, trying to figure out what I was interested in. And I actually met somebody in a radio access network group. So those are the people who manage and optimize the cell towers that give you cell phone service. And the experience that I got from that team was incredible. Like, it was that engineering mindset that I really, really enjoyed from my internships at John Deere. And I have leveraged that experience to this day in my product development role at AT&T. So it's half product development engineer, which is working with basically, okay, raise your hand if you have an Apple phone. Okay, so back in the day, back in 2007, when the first iPhone launched, it was actually exclusive with AT&T. And so that partnership is really, really strong. And a lot of the new stuff that comes out on phones, AT&T and all the other carriers have to work very closely with Apple. But so I have to do some work with the Apple team, making sure that those devices work on the network, and my broader group works on making sure that every single phone works on the AT&T network. So that whole area of the company is really cool. And then broader team is everything devices, IoT, anything that touches our network, all the way to the internet box that goes in your house. So I love what I do now, and I've gotten to where I am from building my network within the company and looking around to see, okay, is there something that's a better fit for me? So I guess to sum it all up, just know that when you're looking for your job or your first job after college, it may not go like you think it is. And you might think that you have it in the bag and you did all the right things. You got the internships at the company you thought you were going to work for, and it may not go as you think. So always expect the unexpected. And I would say continue to pursue what interests you even when you do see setbacks.
That's cool. I don't think I've ever learned the SWE connection to your job. That's really cool.
Yeah, now you know.
Yeah, and wait, so did you though move here from Texas
I did.
before AT&T, or you had AT&T and you moved?
I was with AT&T, so I
Okay,
joined my job
yeah.
at AT&T in Dallas, Texas.
Oh, okay.
And then I moved with AT&T here
Oh.
to Seattle when my husband started a PhD program here at UW.
Okay, nice. Cool. Yeah, did you?
I do want to talk to the second point, but I didn't know how you were going to
The second point.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's 2 bullet points.
Yes, okay. So I guess how navigated stress at the collegiate level, volunteering, yeah, with, I initially joined SWE to make friends in college, to have like some sort of, I didn't know anybody, and I was like, hey guys, anybody want to be my friend type of thing? And then I eventually made those kind of like long-lasting friends that you just like see kind of continuously up through leadership and in the collegiate level and that kind of thing. And I think that really helped me as like another thing, separate from my schoolwork, separate from the homework I had to do, all that. SWE was something I could like hang out with friends, do something random, and do like be active in something else and like have your mindset switch and stuff. And I think that really helped the pressure of of school and everything. And then I think at local level, you mean like?
So I wrote this slide and
Yeah.
I wrote it from a different point of view.
Okay, you
As
know.
a after college view,
Oh,
which is
wait,
why it's like after college.
okay, I got it.
The way that I had kind of written this slide was kind of explaining, like, you know, your life after college. You've got all these new added responsibilities. You've kind of got to prioritize yourself for sure. But how do you, the question that was kind of posed to us as professionals was just, like, how have we navigated stress and stayed engaged with SWE as a support system, right? So yes, SWE is very much a support system in the collegiate space. We actually see most members coming from collegiates, especially at things like conferences, We Locals, and like the national conferences. So it very much is that. We, at the society levels, sometimes, all the time, see like a pretty drastic drop off in member engagement when you make that transition from college to career, because you might be moving, you might not know if there's a section in that area, things like that. So if you've heard of like the C2C membership, it's the college to career, kind of covers that first year.
Does anybody have that membership?
I did.
It was
Yeah.
like heavily incentivized
Yeah.
for my collegiate section of like, you will save money, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, and so things like that, right? And I guess the way I had written this was just like, now that like we are all professionals, hypothetically, right, in this life after college, what are ways you can be involved or like manage your time, have a network? At the collegiate level, there's like things like this, right, where us as professionals are able to give back and kind of build networks this way. Similar to you, my internship in aerospace was from a recruiter that came and spoke at a UW SWE like general meeting, and just kind of talking to them like after the meeting kind of made it such that he invited me on site, and then I was able to get an internship that way, which I thought was really cool because I didn't even like do an interview with like the hiring manager or anything. Like the recruiter thought that I was a good enough fit, and after doing like the on-site tour, like talked to the hiring manager, and I thought that was really cool. It's kind of like things you hear about, but I never really thought that it would happen, you know? So I thought that was really cool. At the local level, this is kind of the SWE PNW level, right? I'm going to speak for us and say that we do get gratification from and like enjoyment and happiness from volunteering at that level as well, right? And then like, I'll say we're friends. Like this is a network, right?
What do you mean you'll say we
Like,
are friends?
I don't want to speak for them, right? Like that's all I'm saying. Like if yeah, so like we do hang out outside of like SWE only events.
Tiffany was the first person I met
We had a
in
holiday
PNW.
party a couple months ago, and I stole her gift at White Elephant.
Yes, but you know,
That's
we
why.
forgive and
But forgive, but we don't forget.
Yeah.
But like, so we at that level, right? Volunteering either through like K through 12 outreach, similar to what y'all do here. We have like we're gonna be at the Pacific Science Center doing like an engineering fair thing for K through 12. I think in a month or so. And then networking opportunities, right? That's kind of what like we build our networks. I would say it's one of the biggest things SWE PNW does.
Yeah. And I think it's like it mimics what college is, right? Everybody has different majors, right? But once you go into industry, you're not seeing those same people again. And so networking, like the local level and PNW section really emphasizes being able to talk to somebody in aerospace and being like, whoa, what's your job? What do you do? Or like, what are, you know, that kind of thing. And getting that exposure of just like different engineering backgrounds and stories and like how people came to SWE or that kind of thing, I think is really the coolest, that I see like the stories from like Morgan or Dee or Lisi, how like they've grown their own networks and stuff.
Another thing I'd like to hit on, and when I was sitting in y'all's shoes maybe 5-6 years ago, we had professionals come in and talk about one really great thing about SWE is that they have sections all across the country and all across the world. So when you move, you move and you don't know anybody in the new city. So I moved from Dallas to Seattle just a little over a year ago now. My husband and I knew nobody here, right? No family, no friends, nothing. And I joined SWE with the intention of, hey, I would like to make new friends, and I have. So from these two who are right here, sorry about White Elephant, to actually the first event that I went to when I moved here was we had an event with Rachel's Ginger Beer, where they talked about how they make the ginger beer, and then also we got to have ginger beer coffee, so it was great.
We got free samples.
We got lots of free samples. It was delicious.
Didn't know it was fermented, but not alcoholic.
Yeah, so this is just a map. We moved ahead, but I just wanted to point out the map. These are all the areas where SWE has yes, and there's also Canada, but yeah, these are all the areas just zoomed in, right, to largely the U.S. And North America of what other professional societies and collegiate societies are active. To Maureen's point of like, if you move, it is hard to figure out what's there. But we've had folks who are interning in the area come out, reach out to SWE PNW, and we'll tell them about our events. And then I'll go back. I'm proud of this because I did it when I was VP of Social Networking. But like we did like a Mariners. We started off. So I was VP of Social Networking right after the pandemic, as we were starting to like transition back into like trying to get more things in person. So one of the first things we did was like a Mariners game, because that was outdoors. They do donate tickets to nonprofits, so it was free. It was just really low risk, and when you're navigating stress, you really want to do things that are fun and like not work related. So that's kind of why I really enjoy doing the networking things. You can see the happy hours at the far right. The Rachel's Ginger Beer was an example of a happy hour. But it was also part of a series that I did called like the Fermentation Series, where it may or may not have been a lot of breweries and cideries that we toured, but within those there's actually a lot of engineering behind it as well. A lot of automation goes into it. A lot of like chemical engineering goes into it. Really cool stuff. And there was usually alcohol at the end. And that's kind of like Rachel's Ginger Beer, right? Like they don't actually use a fermentation process, which was interesting. It's a soda essentially, but they kind of talked about like how their supply chain worked and how they do their like R&D processes, which was all really cool. And so yeah, I know we're kind of going slow. So just kind of the next thing, right? So after college, you're kind of getting into work, kind of figuring out how to balance that work-life balance, especially through the lens of like a professional experience after college. Morgan kind of talked a little bit about how she was able to progress her career while respecting like bandwidth, right? So you kind of knew that there were things you didn't like doing, so you really leaned into your rotation or like the idea of being able to move out of it, understanding that, because it really is a balancing ambition without burnout thing. And we'll kind of talk about how there's different types of burnouts in a little bit, but those are kind of all the questions you have to ask yourself. Everyone's going to kind of have a little bit different bandwidth. And like personally for me, being in a managerial position now, that was something I really had to figure out. I'm honestly still figuring it out. I'm like, days are long sometimes, but there are things that I'm really passionate about, right? So I really like doing things like this. I really like networking. I really like what I would consider outreach and professional development with folks, especially since I came up through SWE. Things like this I'm really passionate about. So how do I balance my career as like a working manager, where, you know, my background is really technical at work. I really like doing hands-on things. My boss tells me to do less hands-on things, but like that's the things that I love. But you know, I also really enjoy doing the people aspect, really love my team, really want to make sure they're set up for success as well. How do I balance all those things without burning myself out because I'm trying to do, you know, 3 people's jobs when I'm just one person? I don't have the answer. These are all questions you have to like think for yourself and figure out what your balance is. It's kind of just because you like need to do a sanity check, and like, not this week, but like at the end of December, like year end is really big for publicly traded companies. At the end of December, there were things where I had to be like, I like planned things and I had to be like, I'm so sorry, I cannot make this. Like, we need to reschedule for like Q1. So things like that. And that's kind of like just transitioning into like my staying engaged with SWE as a support system, right? Like, how can it be a resource for us, for anyone as like early career engineers?
I think it's a little bit of like, what if you did fill this out and you were like, okay, I did that, but I did that. It's like taking the good with the bad type of thing. I think it's like, there are going to be days and there are going to be weeks that are rough, and I just did like a over 60-hour week last week, and I was like, this is rough.
Yeah.
Do I want to do this? Am I in the right job? Should I quit? Should I, you know, all those like same questions still race in my mind and everything. And I think though it's like days though I really like when my coworker's dog comes in and we get to like walk, or we get to do a dinner with coworkers, and like or I get to work on this one, like really feel accomplished after I got like a project out. And so it's like having the good with the bad, and for me, I'm 3 years, almost 4 years out of college, but I have been learning better to set boundaries. And I think that's really what I just had like our year goal making for what I need to do or what I want to make to, we have like levels in my company or whatever, so level 1, 2, 3, whatever, and that doesn't necessarily define managing roles and that kind of thing, but I think it's like a very setting boundaries, and my boss asked me, do you want to become a mechanical 3 engineer? And I'm like, well, what does that entail? Give me the, you know, I'm not gonna immediately say, yeah, I want to become that. I want to know when I want to become it. I want to know what the roles and responsibilities are. If I want to go that role, do I have to do billing? I do not want to do anything with money. Do not give me a sheet that I have to fill out and say, this is how much money we're charging the project. Is this okay? I don't want anything to do with money. So I had that conversation with my boss, and she's like, I understand. I don't want to do that. We'll work with it. That doesn't mean you won't become a mechanical level 3. And so having those conversations with like management and stuff, and that was like a huge relief, because I was really nervous that she was gonna be like, this is the role that you need, or you need your PE now, or whatever. And I'm like, I'm working on it. I have my EIT, or, you know, that kind of stuff. So I think that was the big 2 things.
So I do notice it's 6:27. Does your meeting end at 6:30? Just as a time check. Typically, okay. So I'll try and wrap it up. So this is, I think, the last slide we have before we just show resources.
Yeah, and this is like this slide, but we already looked at it. So yeah.
So for me, my advice would be, whether it's college, whether it's your professional life, find something that you really enjoy that rejuvenates you, and stick to that. And just so you know, and I've learned this from experience, social media is not that rejuvenating thing. Sometimes I have a break, and I'm like, oh, I'll scroll TikTok for 5 minutes. It's never 5 minutes, and I don't feel good after. So for me, it's Muay Thai right now, which is Thai kickboxing. And my kind of boundary that I have is, you know, I want to be able to leave to make my Muay Thai class, and it forces me to leave work on time every day, and it works out great. SWE also is a really fulfilling thing that you can do, and I find it fulfilling. But one thing to keep in mind is that SWE burnout is also real. When I was in college, I was a leader in my SWE section for all 4 years, and I was the president my final year, and I did find that I was so burnt out from SWE stuff that I did need to take actually a little bit of a break from SWE for about a year or two afterwards. And then, you know, when I was ready, I went back to my Dallas professional section, and I joined the professional development committee, so I didn't jump in with a leadership role. You can ease into it. You don't have to jump in with something immediately. And since then, you know, I moved, I joined as treasurer-elect. And so be mindful of your time and the fact that, like, I think I've heard the saying, like, you can't give from an empty cup or something. Like, so, it's something like that. But it's like if your cup is empty, you can't
from a desert.
something like that, or something like that. But you need to make sure you take care of yourself. And SWE is kind of on the border of like something that's for you and something that's for others, so it gets to be a little bit of both. But once you are in a leadership position, it is truly like you are serving other people. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is that it can be work. So find something that is not your job, not your school, not SWE, but is for you.
Yeah.
And so now I think that it's 6:29, so
Yeah.
we have some resources
Just like
to
those
share
outlet
with
and
you
those
guys.
support
Yeah.
groups think is
Yeah,
important.
we've gone through this
Yeah,
story.
we got it. We got it.
These are like connect with SWE PNW things if you're interested.
We have a scholarship
And then-
opening soon. It should open this weekend, so when that becomes available on all of our channels, we should be sending that out. So we're pretty active on Discord. We have a professional section Discord. We have a newsletter. We have a website. I will try. I think Rachel. I will when that link becomes open. I'll send it to you,
That'd be great.
and you can forward it to the section because we want you. We have money for you guys. We want you to apply.
Yeah, we got money. We need to get away, guys.
That's why the social events are always really awesome. But yeah, I guess like, are there any questions?